Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live.
The Kansas City Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. You only win a Super Bowl 2 times every 5 years, right? Oh!
The warm-up act is over. Let's bring in Melissa Etheridge, massive Chiefs fan. Melissa.
Super Bowl champion, 2-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
And he picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna score!
And we'll see you next week. But until then, as always, go Chiefs.
Welcome into the Arrowhead Addict podcast. I am Sterling Holmes, live from my parents' basement. Joined as always on this Tuesday by J.B. Brisco. Brisco, my house is getting redone, okay? It's very close to where my new house is, close to kind of where my old house is, and I don't have internet at my new house. I don't have furniture at my old house, so we are at my parents' house, baby. So we're just thriving and surviving. Brisco, well, it's kind of like the Chiefs, right? They're thriving by winning games and surviving because they're not winning by much. So there we go. Brisco, how are you?
I'm good. I think it's great that you found the new way to try to hide from the audience that you own 3 houses all in the greater Kansas City area. Typically, when people have multiple homes, I think they try to do it in different areas so they can go spend some cold months in a warmer place or spend some warm months in a cooler place. But you've just decided to go ahead and collect your 3rd house in this Kansas City area. I'm proud of you as ever. And listen, nothing winning ugly about that backdrop there. Is that your dad's doing or your mom's doing in terms of the decor in your backdrop today?
Yeah, so we have a whole bunch of signed photos, memorabilia, Ice Cube up there, some sticks, Alice Cooper, Steve Miller Band, Ted Nugent over there.
That wall just keeps going.
Bruce Springsteen. Bryce Springsteen, actually, yeah. It's
the manager, they call him.
So parents' basement, and we're having fun. It's actually on a pool table what my laptop is on. There's not much. Well, my back hurts from moving. It's a long story. No one cares about it. But I do want to bring something up really quickly. I want to bring up the fact, and a lot of Chiefs fans have been getting angry. And again, I will say, you can fan however you want to fan. If you want to feel angry, feel angry. But people are so irritated when they listen to national media. They talk about, wait, the Chiefs were just blasted for barely beating the Panthers on the road, while the Eagles are almost praised for hanging on, barely winning when they're in Philly. And the dichotomy is just so backwards. And the reason I want fans to try and take a step back, you can feel that way, but it's because they're trying to make you feel that way. They understand that Chiefs fans react. They understand that gets clicks. Not only that, what sells? Trying to... Sex, drugs, rock and roll. Boom, baby. I have the rock and roll and drugs. Like the 31 other fan bases, that's what sells. Not trying to appease the one. Not trying to appease the back-to-back Super Bowl champions that always show up. That market is tapped, right? They're going to try and appease the other 31 other fan bases and franchises. So when you see these national media sites and all they're talking about is the 31 other teams and, well, the Bills lost, but Josh Allen MVP. It's like, well, what are we doing here, guys? You're blasting the Chiefs for winning, but praising guys in a losing effort. You have to step back and realize they're trying to pander to 31 fan bases, not the one. That's just marketing.
The inverse also felt so true for so much of the Patriots dynasty, right? Like, I remember how many years over years, even where there were good Chiefs teams, like in the Andy Reid, Alex Smith days in particular, where people were really frustrated. Like, why aren't you talking about the Chiefs more? Talk about the Chiefs, national media. And at that point, the issue was, well, sorry, there are like 5 teams who are legitimate contenders. And I do think, to kind of narrow it down a little bit from the 31, although I think there's a lot of truth to that, they're trying to appeal to what the aggregate fan is going to get, right? So it's not Good Morning Football is never really for a Chiefs fan or a Bengals fan or a Bills fan or a Lions fan or whatever. It's the stuff that's going to make for, ideally, the best television. That often also comes with arguments. It comes with these sort of false dichotomies left and right. It brings you into this made-for-TV special that all of these channels are constantly running. And I don't even hate the game. I don't begrudge that particular game. On some, I think, much more intellectually honest and helpful level, we have to play that game, right? We all are doing a little bit of figuring out what we should be talking about that people are going to want to tune into. Again, I think much more intellectually, honestly, we are going to do it with the truth and good content being sort of our northern star. And we're narrowing it down to Chiefs fans, because we can spend all day watching and reviewing and talking about this football team on a level that you simply can't do around nationally. So all of that, I'm certainly with you. And it's something that I tweeted not right after the game. It was my last tweet before bed, I think, on Sunday night, was asking Chiefs fans if they're having fun. And I'm a little bit more willing to tell people how to fan than you are, just a smidge more. And really, it's I hope it's not me pointing or sneering. I hope it's me suggesting this as an option, because sometimes I forget this. To your initial point that led me here so beautifully, Sterling, it should not matter to you if the rest of the NFL is having fun or not. It should not matter to you if Bills fans are tweeting about the refs after a Chiefs-Chargers game that involved no particular refereeing chicanery. That should not lessen your joy. You're giving way too much power away if you're going to end up in that spot. And so I understand that it's been frustrating. I have had way more frustrations than joyful moments throughout this regular season on Sundays or whatever day the Chiefs play on. But I do think it's important to remember that you are watching the most successful, winningest team in football. Objective truths, right? This is the team that plays, if you are still in the Kansas City area, or even if you've transplanted out somewhere else, or if you became a Chiefs fan abroad, it's all valid to me to say the team in your backyard is that organization, the one that everybody gets frustrated about when you do or don't talk about them. There's no winning there, and that's okay, because the Chiefs on the field do all of the winning you could possibly ask for.
Yep. So that's where I'm at, is I'm not going to give a hoot nor a holler. They can't bring my vibes down. The trolls on Twitter can stay and scream into the void while I will be cracking open an ice-cold beer and playing some games right there on Underdog Fantasy. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, baby. Underdog Fantasy. Great spot to have a little fun, get a little extra bumps in your chest, higher or lower on your favorite players, and you can cash in right there on Underdog. I talk about it all the time because for some reason it helps me more than almost anyone else. That is called the injury protection. Your guy gets injured. What happens? Oh no, they'll help you out. Try that on other places. You won't gonna get helped up. They'll take your money. Not there. They want to help you win right there on Underdog. You make the call. So make sure you download the app today and use code Arrowhead Addict, one word, to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Again, code Arrowhead Addict, one word, get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Higher or lower, you make the call. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama, Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado, for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and President State where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or text www.ncpgambling.org. Arizona, 1-800-NEXT STEP, 1-800-639-8783 or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call a 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-AND-WIRE. Text HOPE and Y 467-369. That was like a 7.3 out of 10. I feel I could do better.
I agree. I think it was a good performance, one that most people would be proud of, but not one that you should be proud of because you know that you have an even greater calling.
Yeah, Sean, and he goes 18 seconds, beat that, Patrick. Honestly, that's not my best, though, Sean. That was I'm in a different setup, and I'm trying to enunciate going down, and there's something going on with your jowls when you try and look downwards. It causes some congestion. We can get that 16-second mark guaranteed, Sean. We're going to get there. I'll be better going forward. That much is on me. I do want to talk about an interesting conversation. The national media talks about it, but this is more localized now. So the Chiefs are 12-1. They're not winning, or they are winning, but they're not winning by a wide margin, so they're winning these close games. Appreciate it, Gary, for the nice segue, Sterling. Thank you, Gary. But when it comes down to it, a lot of folks have been saying, but what are they doing against playoff teams? They're not playing anyone. Their schedule's so easy, which is ridiculous. It's the NFL. It's not college football. Like, they're not scheduling like Missouri S&T. Sorry.
Turk Wharton.
Turk
Guys,
Wharton.
I swiped there.
Didn't mean to swipe at you.
Also, the AFC West is probably gonna have 3 playoff teams in it, so go bleep yourself.
Yeah, and also it's like, okay, so we're not playing the ACC. There we go. We're not playing Miami, a
so
bunch
confusing.
of frauds. ACC's a bunch of frauds. They're 5-1 against playoff teams. The Bills are 2-2.
They beat the Ravens and Bengals so long ago, people forgot those games happened. They've been playing the Panthers 13 times.
Like, I'm so befuddled by this. They are 5-1 against playoff teams, and people are like, yeah, well, how will they fare when they're not playing the Panthers? Go 5-1? Like, I'm so. Am I the only one who's not taking crazy pills here? Because this isn't just national media. I think I've heard this from some of the more maybe pessimistic Chiefs fans, where it's not sky is falling, but it's close. It's close. Why aren't they winning by more? It's like, yeah, well, they're still 5-1 against playoff teams. Like, that has to count for something.
Also, I'm just kind of jabbing at a couple of these. So the Chiefs and Saints played in week 5. At that point, the Saints were 2-2 with 2 incredible blowout wins to start the season, and then a narrow loss to the Eagles, and then another one to the Falcons. When the Chiefs beat the Falcons, Atlanta was very much, I think pretty clearly the favorite in that division back in week 3. The Niners season was far from over when the Chiefs dispatched them on the road. The Raiders stink. The AFC West will probably have, again, 2 playoff teams not named the Kansas City Chiefs coming out of it. So I think there are a lot smarter, better ways to critique what the Chiefs have put up than to say, well, why haven't they played the Bills more often? No, they played the Bills once. It was in Buffalo. They lost by 9 points. Sorry. That happens sometimes. In fact, it's happened to every team in football.
Again,
The Lions have an even better division opposite them. That's fabulous. We can acknowledge that. I don't know who this argument is for, though. Why are people doing this?
Yeah, the Bills have played 4. I mean, yeah, Miami Dolphins, congrats. Nice play in the Dolphins, the Jets, and the Patriots. But no one talks about that. Just absurdity. I want to get to a couple comments here. One from Maxwell says, saw Toney got released from the Browns today. He did. Was looking forward to seeing him drop some passes for the Chiefs fans on Sunday. I think he's done. The last 2 plays I saw from Browns fans was he played 2 snaps, I think, and he got a taunting penalty on a fair catch.
Yep.
And then he muffed the ball, and the guy he taunted was the person who landed on the ball. So
I didn't even catch that.
Those were the 2 snaps from Cadarius Toney. So he's done.
Yeah, after the Steven Nelson news came down, I did a little revamp on the old "Bring Him Home" Matt Damon the Martian poster, and so I just changed it to say "Bring Everyone Home" because Steven Nelson is now apparently in the mix. And then I saw the Toney news today, and I just added, maybe don't bring everyone home, because this is one that I, as the last Cadarius Toney supporter remaining in the greater Kansas City metro area, even I don't think a reunion's going to make this one work. Maybe in a couple of years after he's bounced back somewhere else.
I do want to get to Steven Nelson. I'm going to hit a couple more comments first, and then we'll go to Steven. Adam Snyder says, physically strong teams win the regular season, but it takes a mentally strong team to win playoff games. This Chiefs team is both. They have gotten more physically strong as kind of the Andy Reid era in Kansas City has taken place. We are a far cry from the what do we used to call them? We used to call the Chiefs team, not physically. They were finesse teams. They were finesse teams, sure, right? How far away are we from the finesse teams that the Chiefs were known as? I think you can almost call them a physically strong team as well now. All right, Steven Nelson. He was pretty solid last year for Houston and then somewhat unexpectedly retired. He had some decent years in Kansas City, although a lot of Chiefs fans clearly had their ire for Steven Nelson. Him and Bob Sutton never got along, but as Steven's career progressed and Bob Sutton's ended, I think more Chiefs fans are coming on to the Steven Nelson side. Had a nice little resurgence in Pittsburgh. Played a year in Philly, then Houston. But last year had a PFF grade that was pretty solid. I don't have it in front of me. My connection's not outstanding, so I didn't want to slow this down. But I believe he was graded the 39th coverage cornerback in football last year. 39 out of, I believe, 229 corners, okay? That is a legitimate CB2. That is what you were hoping to get from Jalen Watson at the start of the season. That was what you were hoping to get from whoever was going to win that CB2 job opposite Trent McDuffie. But what Steven Nelson also brings, if again, it is the same player he was last year, even a little bit back of that, he is an exclusive outside corner. That is big for Kansas City because what you'd like to have happen is Trent McDuffie, at least part throughout the game, transition back into the slot. Because Trent McDuffie is an elite slot corner, yet he might just be a above average outside corner, right? So if that's the case, it's like putting Joe Toney at left tackle. He can play left tackle. He might be the best left tackle on the roster, but he might be the best left guard in all of football. It's like Trent McDuffie. He's the best outside corner on this roster, but he's the best slot corner in football. What do you take away of Steven Nelson coming back?
I've got a positive slant and a negative slant for you. Which one do you want? Which one do you want first here? Good news or bad news, or good take or bad take?
Let's get the bad one out of the way first. Let's go ahead and just rip the bad take.
I'm also kind of a bad news first kind of guy, but I don't know if that's healthy or not. Here's the bad news. He has not played football in almost a year, and like almost a legit full entire year. And there are 4 regular season games remaining. Yeah. Not a lot of time to get back on that horse. I think there's a chance. And look, back to his like surprise retirement when he said he had a newborn on the way and wanted to spend more time with his family and all that, which is cool. He said that he would stay in shape if there was a reason to return, essentially. I don't have the quote in front of me, but I completely forgot that I wrote a story about that over in ChiefsOnSI.com. We did that this summer, dog days of summer. We needed a story. Steven Nelson retired. Cool. I'll write about it. I totally blocked that out of my mind until he was reportedly on his way back to visit Kansas City. So the negative side is Steve Spagnuolo's defense takes time. Communicating with that defensive backfield takes time. He has no time. The pivot into the good news, which is also a little bit of bad news, is that his bar to clear is not that high, especially if Joshua Williams is out for any period of time. We did not get any real update from Andy Reid Sunday night after the game or Monday regarding DJ Humphries or Joshua Williams. It was, we know Humphries got an MRI on Monday, presumably, and I've heard nothing since. And if I've heard nothing since, no one publicly has heard anything since. So I look at the Nelson addition onto the practice squad at first, by the way, as literally no risk. There's no reason not to do this. If Najee Johnson's confidence took a hit, it would have taken a hit getting benched for Joshua Williams, and he had to come back into the game anyway. If you're worried about, Keith Taylor and the workload that he's going to get, he's been a spot player for a couple of snaps here and there as they've shuffled this around. So I think rearranging the dishes to try to create something that is a little more competent and a little more reliable at one of those outside corner spots makes total sense. It's completely risk-free. There is no downside of this. They had a vacant practice squad spot because Nico Remigio got an active roster spot. So this costs you nothing. It's worth the shot. He was better at the end of last season than most of the corners the Chiefs have currently.
Yeah, and he's not coming off of an injury, which should at least help as far as not the mental side, but hopefully he's older. He's 31, I believe. So that means he's not going to be the quickest corner out there, but he also shouldn't be coming off an injury where you got to get those legs right, get comfortable with all that stuff. And again, I know people will have certain feelings of how he left Kansas City. Again, I don't begrudge those people for feeling said way. But if I remember correctly, and I could be wrong, but I remember him taking more shots at Bob Sutton than anything else. And I look back now and say, yeah, maybe he wasn't completely wrong. Bob Sutton wasn't the answer.
Yeah, I think Steven Nelson and Marcus Peters should both have their legacies amended appropriately in that regard.
Yeah. All right. DJ Humphries.
Yeah.
Also no real news on the injury, correct?
Yeah, nothing since Monday. MRI pending. That was all we had. It's
the whole, hey, any update, Andy? Oh, gosh dang it, Herbie. He's
doing it right now, actually. So you let us know after the presser? No, I will talk to you on Wednesday, and you can go bleep yourself.
Yeah, I mean, you know how it goes. We'll find out when they want us to find out. So I don't know how to feel about DJ Humphries. I don't know how to feel about that first start. Let's just say for the sake of this initial argument, He's good to go. It was a stinger. He's fine. Let's just say that for the initial argument first. Okay, Brisco?
Sure.
If that's the case, that was almost worst case scenario and why Andy was saying it's unfair to DJ to put him in that spot. Because they trusted Wanye and Kingsley so little that they had to put in a left tackle who was coming off of a major injury at his age, who's yet to play in this system, who had gone through one padded practice, who they've already said, we don't want to put him in a spot that's unfair to him. And they at least felt like they were forced to play him at left tackle, and you saw why. Because he was not ready. DJ Humphries was not ready. He needed more practice, clearly. He needed more time with the cadence with Patrick, because Khalil Mack knew Patrick's cadence better than DJ Humphries did. So I don't know how to feel about DJ Humphries' performance, because it's not all on him. I don't know how much I could take away. Not much was positive, quite frankly, but I also want to say it was this complete and utter bust, and he'll never be an impact the rest of the year. Again, injury aside.
Yeah, injury aside, I'll actually take a little bit more of an optimistic tone than you are, I think. I thought it was fine. The next-gen stats pass blocking, the next-gen stats pressure rate gave him 8 pressures on 40 pass blocking snaps. That's 20%. That's no good. PFF gave him credit for 5 of those. And those metrics change by like your matchup, how quickly you lose, and everything going on around you. So you can kind of split the difference there if you want. But I thought what we saw from DJ Humphries was probably it was an improvement on the average Kansas City Chiefs left tackle experience in 2024. And for me, the cadence part, I think, is maybe your most salient point. That's something that should get better as time goes on, and it's something that probably could have improved with more time in practice. On the other hand, you're talking about a guy coming back from injury, needing to get back up to speed. If you can let him be out there and play an entire game and not get Patrick Mahomes killed, not make any game-killing penalties, not totally whiff along the way, if he can be out there and he is able to get live game reps to begin to make that recovery process, I'm okay with that. And I think the results were at least good enough that it's not like he was taking those reps from Kingsley in week 1 or Wanye in week 3. This was a break glass in case of emergency plan, and I think the emergency has landed. And again, injury aside, I think Humphries looked fine, at least for a nearly 31-year-old left tackle making his first game action in nearly a year. I would have been relatively heartened by that performance if he would have gotten out of it healthy, because I think that there is better still to come.
All right, let's quickly go over the injury aspect, because we don't know a ton yet. Andy's not said anything, and it's ironclad in Arrowhead right now, so we'll find out. If he's not good to go, again, we'll go quick here because it's hypothetical. If he's not good to go, do the Chiefs go back to Wanye, or do you think they try Joe Toney at left tackle?
I think my hunch at this point is that Wanye came back in because it was mid-game. I think if DJ Humphries has gotten relatively bad news on his hamstring, Joe Toney could be practicing at left tackle tomorrow, and he could actually get a few practices in at that position. Mike Caliendo could get some first-team reps at left guard. So I would say, if I had to guess right now, if DJ Humphries can't go, and if the Chiefs know that right now, I would guess that Toney starts at left tackle.
Yeah. All right. I do want to talk more offensive line, but a couple of comments that I want to get to. One from Getting a Three-Peat says, I hardly ever have a chance to get on here, but I will give you your flowers. Mizzou handled business, but it's still, I don't know what those 4 letters in a row mean, LOL. I appreciate you. I was at the game. I was very, very lucky. One of my pledge brothers from college, he works at a bank in Columbia. He's like, I can't make it. You want to go? I was like, I can't make it. I'm moving houses. I'm too busy. He goes, they're floor seats. I said, hey, Dad. You want to go to Mizzou KU? He's like, I don't know. Like, they're gonna lose. I go, they're floor seats. He goes, get in the car. Let's go. So we ended up having a great time, and it could not be more fun for us. Again, father son. So I appreciate you doing that. And again, KU, they're gonna be okay. Lucas in the chat says, minor breaking news: Chiefs assistant D-line coach Terry Braden is being hired as Nebraska's new defensive line coach.
Just saw that over there on social a little bit ago. He's been with the team for a while now, so assuming that report initially was true, I'm guessing he gets a little pay bump, and then maybe he's on a pretty good track to be a DC at the college level. That's cool.
Yeah. From Cliff in the chat says, I'm done with trying to fix the O-line. Cut our losses. We got what we got. Time to adjust the playbook, timing plays, heavy runs, screens, checkdowns. Cliff, this is what I want to hit on. So great comment here. This was just threading the needle into the conversation here.
Good. I don't like this comment.
In which way? I love it. I love this
Yeah,
comment.
I'm really excited. I don't like this comment. Go ahead. You go first.
Okay, Cliff. So I love this comment because you're right. This is what you have. This offensive line is what you have. Bringing in, I don't know at this point, Donovan Smith.
Donovan Smith, baby. Bring him home.
I'm over that now. I think you're right. With this few games left, you go with what you got, whether that's Wanye, whether it's Joe Toney, whether it is a healthy DJ Humphries or semi-healthy DJ. That's what I think the Chiefs need to go with, okay? Go with a plan and stick with said plan. Now, I think the Chiefs are in a weird situation where they try to rock a lot of 12 personnel. They run 12 personnel more than any team in the NFL. But one of the issues is they're pass-catching tight ends. They don't really use them to chip and block a lot. So Travis Kelce, Noah Gray, really good tight ends. Phenomenal tight ends. Maybe the best 1-2 tight end tandem in the NFL, right? Them, Isaiah Likely, and Mark, however you want to break it down. It's probably Travis and Noah Gray, the emergence of Noah. But they're not leaving those guys in to block a whole bunch. So that 12 personnel is not helping the offensive line a ton, right? I actually enjoyed what the Chiefs did at times. It looked like they were rocking legit RPOs and getting the ball out quick to DeAndre Hopkins, getting the ball out quick to Xavier Worthy. And you actually saw that with Xavier Worthy, again, was it 5 catches for 41 yards?
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. Again, not big plays, but they haven't been hitting on those big plays. That 6-yard, 7-yard gain is still a good gain. That's still keeping you ahead of the sticks. I like those 3-step drops quick out. You don't have time for these long developing plays. If they ask, do we have time to run wasp? The answer is no. Sorry, Tyreek, we don't have time to run wasp. So I'm with you. I think the Chiefs do need to run more. They're already rocking heavy personnel, but I know Briscoe's going to have a little pushback here because he's team almost never run the football.
That's not true.
What's funny is I'm almost team never run the football, and even I am still saying, yeah, the Chiefs need to continue to run the football, even if they're not the most effective, even if it's 3 yards a carry. That 3 yards is at least giving Mahomes 1 play off from running with his head cut off back there, okay? There is something to that. So instead of you now needing 10 yards on 2nd down and 10, now you need a 7-yard play on 2nd and 7, and again, the offensive line is not giving you time. So Cliff, I'm with you. I think that makes a lot of sense. The Chiefs need to do that.
I will say on the running side, the idea of giving Patrick Mahomes a break, a play or two off, is for me one of the most important parts about them. Like not completely forgetting where the run plays are on the play sheet. So I'm with you. They need to continue running the ball. I disagree with the premise of being done with trying to, quote, fix the offensive line. And then a few things after that. But the idea of I'm done trying to fix it. Cut our losses. I am curious if Cliff's still around. I'm curious what cut our losses means in this instance because I have no idea. But when you look at how this offense is built, you have the point about heavy personnel. They can run that. Their screen game this year has not been very effective. You know, one thing you do need in your screen game, you need an athletic offensive line that can get out into space and begin to lead the way there. All of the checkdowns, hey guys, they've been checking the ball down all year and you hate it. They had run the ball earlier in the year at a very high rate, and you were not happy with the offense. The reason that this offense is so field goal is because big plays end drives for both sides of the ball, right? A 15-play drive that ends in a fizzling out at the 6-yard line gives you 3 points. That drive felt nice. Your offense was moving, but you end up eventually having all those opportunities on every single play. You have an opportunity for one of 11 guys on your side to make an execution error and one of 11 guys on their side to make a play. When that happens, one incompletion on 2nd and 10 or a stuffed run and then an incompletion that now has you at 3rd and 8, suddenly you are behind the sticks, and you do need to be able to have, first of all, explosive plays like with Xavier Worthy. Those plays have been there. They're just they have not taken very many of them. I think a higher volume of those plays will directly result in more explosive plays for this offense going forward. So they have to do some of all of this, but also the idea that like 20 carries a game for Isaiah Pacheco and 10 more for Kareem Hunt is going to make this offense better, I just think is misguided. Again, that also directly leads to the offensive line. The interior has been pretty good, certainly in run blocking by and large, but they could not run the ball against the Raiders. The Raiders camped out on that, and there was one truly successful run. I don't know what the percentages were, but like there was one run that you could hang your hat on from that game. Against the Chargers, it wasn't a terrible rushing effort, but it wasn't terribly glamorous. Again, they still should have been running the ball more often than I think they were by and large. But I just think it's all way too intertwined to say, oh, well, just bring all those shortened plays to the sideline with you next week. I just don't think there's any real way to live like that. And again, I don't know what it means. Like saying, I'm done trying to fix the O-line. You know what they haven't tried yet? Starting Joe Toney at left tackle. So if they try that on Sunday, they're trying another way of air quotes fixing it here. They don't have the ability to cease operations and say, just do what we have been doing, because again, Chiefs fans have been losing their mind about that for 3 months.
Again, when you and I are kind of reading his fix and cut the losses a little bit differently here. I'm reading it as what's on the team is on the team. Right? Figure it out with what you already got. Stop trying to bring in new guys, which I'm in agreement with. So that's where I'm at. I'm not necessarily saying don't try Joe Toney but figure it out now. The 1 week.
There's 4 games left in the season, though. Like, it's obviously, there's urgency to this, for sure.
I'm almost saying you got to give someone multiple weeks. Like, trying Joe Toney for 1 week, and if he struggles, saying, okay, well, that's not, like, you got to give someone time to adjust. So we'll see with DJ. Again, a lot of that comes down to injury. Cliff, appreciate the clarification, says, I hear you. Brisco, cut our losses means go with your best 5 guys as of now and stick with it instead of shuffling around and trying to add new pieces. We've had 13 games to fix it.
Right, and the last time they stopped shuffling, Wanya Morris had that job and it got worse. So there is always an ebb and flow to all of this. There's not a correct answer that they need to lock into place, right? It's always going to be at odds with the opponent, which is why the sport's so fun.
Adam Marshall says, but Mahomes still got hit 13 times. That is not a winning formula come playoff time. Agreed.
That's not great.
I know they beat a playoff team in this game, but I don't think you want to roll with that for a 3-game stretch come playoff time. That's going to be...
That's also a consequence, obviously, of Mahomes trying to make some plays happen and them speeding up the offense a little bit. There are some ways you can pull those levers at times, but 13 is entirely too many. It's also, to go back to the comment already went by, but it was something like Andy Reid could give Mahomes more time if he wanted to. I disagree with that premise as well, where if he could keep Patrick Mahomes from getting hit and still have any chance to have enough guys outrunning routes in the offense, he would have absolutely done that by now. They're not going to get to run 5 guys on every route. I understand that, but like there has to be an acknowledgement here that there are just a lot of pieces moving and a lot of them fail at a pretty high clip.
Interesting comment here that I find kind of fun. Brian says in the 12 personnel, bring in Kingsley as a tight end to help blocking.
They go 6 wide sometimes. Wanya Morris caught a touchdown on that personnel as tight end, as tackle 2 earlier in the year.
Yeah, I don't hate it.
You don't hate the idea of having Kingsley in as a second, third tackle? I do. I hate it.
Second, third. No. I wouldn't have Noah Trap. That'd be 13, I guess, personnel if you're counting him as a tight end.
I'm like adding Kingsley as the third tackle on the field as the left or right edge. I don't think we need Kingsley taking any pass pro right now.
Probably left, right? You'd probably have him left to try and have both him and DJ or both him and Wanye. Like, okay, we're gonna put a lot here, and that way you have one less guy running a route, but you would have Mahomes with more time, theoretically, of course. We'll see. I think
they'd go heavy with Wanye, assuming that Humphries is back, and if he's,
it's
Kingsley wasn't active on Sunday, and I don't think that's going to change unless Humphries can't go.
It's far-fetched. I just thought it was, at least, hey, he's thinking. Brian, I like the thought, okay? He's thinking out here. Profection 2K says, we literally had this left tackle issue last year, too. Won a Super Bowl with Juwan Taylor guarding the blind side. We'll be ready by the time the postseason starts. Juwan was on the right.
Yeah, this was
The whole
the
season.
Wanya Morris, Donovan Smith instead of Wanya Morris, DJ Humphries. Basically.
Yeah, but I get what you're saying because there was a lot of left tackle issue last year that people gloss over. Donovan Smith was not good during the regular season at all. People gloss over it because he was so good come postseason time. It would almost be like if DJ Humphries the last 4 weeks was playing, below average at left tackle and then turned into a stud in the postseason, because that was, again, more or less what happened. I think, again, we gloss over. There were left tackle issues, though, so I will grant you that, although Juwan did play right the whole time. Do you think there's any chance, something I've wanted to see, that we saw for one game, more Patrick under center? More Patrick not from shotgun, but actually having a single back under center type look, because I was a fan of that. They didn't run enough play action, I thought, out of that for how much they were actually running the football. I thought, hey, they're going to set something up here, but they never did. I don't know your thoughts there, but if you're not having time, if your offensive line struggles, why not have Patrick under center? That does at least set up the theoretical possibility of more play action and keeps the defense honest.
Yeah, no, I kind of like that as well. I think we talked about that. God, I don't know, weeks and weeks ago on Weird Game. Seth was kind of was endorsing a little more like under center play action, make Mahomes turn his back to the defense, then just kind of get him out into space. I think having Mahomes on the move, the Chiefs have already established, is something they love to be able to do because he's great at that. Being able to be under center a little bit to show obvious run looks for a team that should be running the ball a little bit more. Your options now are either running the ball as expected or letting Patrick Mahomes get a little bit of movement there under his feet and then start looking downfield, buying a little bit of time that way. It's honestly a lever I thought they'd pull more often. I assume with your internet connection, you don't have the splits of what they did on Sunday as opposed to the rest of the year. But yeah, I'm fully endorsing a little bit more of that here and there for sure.
Yeah, that just seems surprising that has not come to that. I did think Andy adjusted a little as the game went on with the quicker passes to DeAndre and Xavier Worthy. Again, I hope we see more of that. The Chiefs defense, as interesting as they've been, like the secondary has, I think for the most part, been bad. Like, I'll admit it. Like, I've been pretty disappointed by the secondary overall. Justin Reed, who's not great in coverage, is being put in tough situations. Not necessarily blaming Justin Reed. Like, the Raiders game always stands out to me. That one-on-one with Trey Tucker. Justin Reed is never going to win that race. That's just not his game. So I don't know how that situation arises, but that can't happen consistently. Shamari Connor has really been struggling. Brian Cook has not looked the same ever since his ankle injury. CB2 has clearly been a revolving door. Trent McDuffie has been good, but not the same since he's been on the outside versus the slot. Yet the points per game have been outstanding overall for Kansas City. So it is a little weird judgment-wise on the defense. The defensive line hasn't been getting a lot of sacks. Yet they're not giving up a lot of points, which is the end of the day, that's the name of the game. I do think one thing that has been underrated for this Chiefs defense, I want to get a little positivity here. They are the 9 straight AFC West titles. The Chiefs linebacking core, I've been thoroughly impressed with this year. Drew Tranquill, the first about 7 games of the season, I go, wow, they gave him a contract and he looks horrible. I mean, horrible. What happened to Drew? Well, all of a sudden, Drew Tranquill the last 5 or so weeks looks really good, and the same Drew Tranquill we're used to seeing. Leo Chenal's been outstanding all season long. Leo's been great. One of the more underrated players in all of football, I think. And then Nick Bolton, since the first 2 games of the season, where I thought, oh my gosh, Nick Bolton, you are costing yourself so much money. I think Nick Bolton's having one of his best years as a Kansas City Chief. I've been impressed. So I think the linebacking core is really holding this defense together right now.
I'll give you something from linebacker and safety because I was going through all the PFF grades from this week earlier today and wrote about it. If you'd like to see them yourself and read them over ChiefsOnSI.com. Leo Chenal had the highest grade of any Chief from that game with an 82.7. Well, the interesting thing about Leo, and that Spags is clearly doing, he is getting protected with his usage. He took 23 snaps as opposed to Nick Bolton taking 55 and Drew Tranquill taking 52. Leo has continually been a part-time player. He's your 12th or 13th guy in terms of like defensive workload. I don't know if that's where he actually lands on the season. I'd have to double check. But in terms of where the rotation's at right now, I think that's about right. He's not getting starter snaps, but he's really, really, really good in the spots that Spags has asked him to be. I think that's great. I'll be curious to see if he can be kind of a legit starting, top 2 linebacker next year. I don't know if the Chiefs expect that or what, but I am intrigued by that. He graded out spectacularly. And then to your point, Tranquil, he had the 4th highest grade of any Chief from PFF with a 71.9. Good game from him, and a few much better games after that start is absolutely right. The wild thing is the bottom 4th of the PFF report card here is terrible news for the safeties of Nick Bolton. Bolton ended up with the 3rd lowest grade of anybody on the team of the qualifying players who played at least 17 snaps. He was down there in a 37.2 from his effort against the Chargers. But Justin Reed had the 5th lowest grade. Brian Cook had the 2nd lowest grade, and in 26 snaps, a career high, Jaden Hicks had the worst grade on the entire Chiefs roster from that game. Shamari Connor got a little bit of a better review, and I think that makes sense. No Lad McConkey out there pushing him was also a rough deal. A lot of the Chargers' success came from challenging the safeties. We have seen tight ends do that in the intermediate. We've seen teams try to do it deeper down the middle of the field at times as well. So I would say I'm at a point of legitimate concern about where the safeties are right now. I have really never had to move a whole lot on where Nick Bolton thrives and struggles. And I'm glad to see Tranquil put together a couple of good games in a row.
Yeah, I will say I don't understand Bolton's PFF grade there. Again, I think PFF can be a good jumping off point. I'm never going to agree with everything on it. I don't understand Nick Bolton's grade there. Safety and safety play, I think, was definitely fair, but it is where it is in regards to our thoughts there. We don't need to hash this out yet again. I do think, as folks are pointing out, Jesus Perez says, D-line looking a lot better with Minahu out there. Ruben says, glad Charles is back. Yeah, Charles has been a definite difference maker, not just for what he does. It's more or less what he opens up for everyone else, because he's a legit guy who can win fairly early, at least quicker than George, quicker than Mike Dana. I believe it was Turk Wharton, too, who gave a ton of credit to, I think it was Felix Anudike Uzama on a particular stunt play they ran. So nice to see FAU get a couple of nice plays, even if he's not getting the credit for it. Nice to see Turk say that. The defensive line, though, as a whole, I think does look a lot better. And that was my whole point with Charles and Minahu. It allows fewer snaps for Turk, which allows better snaps for Turk, which is what we saw in this game. That's my point. Turk Wharton can't be playing that many snaps at that size and be a splash player. You bring his snap count down, all of a sudden, you see those splash plays come back. So, like to see it. I think the Chiefs' defensive line has been interesting to judge because, again, sack numbers overall, not great. Not great, Bob. But the run defense has been, I think, elite this year. They have been getting a lot of pressure as well. Turk Wharton, by the way, saved the game. There was a guy streaking right down the field on that sack he had. Secondary got torched. Turk Wharton saved the day. It kind of leads me into why I think the secondary has some concerns, even with the few amount of points being scored by defenses. The openings in the back of the secondary have me alarmed going forward. But I want to end this show on a positive note. 9 straight AFC West titles, something that I don't think we even dreamed about. I don't think, Brisco, you or myself, when we were growing up, we thought 9 straight AFC West titles. We thought, bleep those Broncos, bleep the Raiders, bleep the Chargers. Oh my gosh, Jake Plummer, what are you doing? We're never going to get past the Jake Plummer bootleg era. Yet here we are, the team that everyone hates, and the Chiefs keep winning. Even in down years, years that everyone's upset and the sky is falling, the Chiefs continuously win. What does this mean? 9 straight. That's a bundle Rooski. You can bundle those hats. Bundle Rooski those hats.
I couldn't legally drink and then therefore hadn't drank when this streak started. That's crazy. Go back to whatever era of your life your childhood quarterback was. You got to be older than 15 to play this game. If you're younger than 15 or 16, you're not allowed to play this game. Sorry. Go back and think about who the quarterback was of the first Chiefs team that you believed had an outside shot. Who was it? You get a couple of good games from Damon Heward. Talk yourself into it. Did you? Trent Green was good enough that almost doesn't qualify, but still could not ever pay off in the way that these Chiefs teams have. I remember being genuinely thrilled about the Matt Castle trade. I remember being optimistic about, well, maybe they could do something interesting with the offense for Tyler Thigpen or Tyler Palko or somebody else. I remember being excited, some other Tyler. I remember being excited when they drafted Brody Croyle. I had hope for Ricky Stanzi. And we're at a point now. How about this? I was excited when they hired Todd Haley. Then I was excited when they fired Todd Haley. I was excited when they hired Romeo Crennel. I was excited when they fired Romeo Crennel. I was excited when they hired Scott Pioli. I was excited when they fired Scott Pioli. Where we are now is something that I really hope, going back to where we were at the top of the show on some level, I really hope you don't forget where you've come from in this. If you do have the fortune or misfortune of being a 16-year-old locked into Arrowhead Addict, I will say that there will be harder days in your future and that you're just going to have to take that word from us old men here talking to you now in or approaching our 30s. And you're going to have to prepare for dark days by hopefully soaking up as much light as you can from this Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid era, because the rest of us have never seen anything like it, and you're probably never going to see anything like it again.
Yeah, I'm 30 now. So when it started, I was 21. And so I was able to drink, but I was in the University of Missouri. Then I lived in Philly for 3 years. I worked for the 76ers. I moved back to Kansas City. I'm in another house. Like the amount of changes and life changes that I've gone through. I am now married after, dating my now wife for 4 or 5 years. Like, just think of all the things that have gone on while the Chiefs have still been the focal point at the top of the AFC West and mostly the AFC in general. Obviously, the big part of that is Andy Reid. When Andy Reid came to Kansas City, tides really turned. It was why I was so thrilled. I thought that was the greatest, most impactful move they could have done. I always liked the Eagles for some reason as my NFC team, so I was perplexed when the Eagles moved on from him. And I was like, wait, the Chiefs should go after him. And then when I heard he was becoming the head coach of the team that I loved and grew up with, I could not have been happier. But you're right. Like, I talked myself into Matt Castle being the savior. And Matt Castle was fine. It wasn't like he was this horrendous player. I mean, he was fine. But think of all the guys and eras and generations and iterations that we've gone through. That 03 team was the pinnacle of enjoyment for me growing up. 03, they went 13-3. The offense was spectacular. It was fireworks, right? All that stuff. That was Trent Green and Priest and the offensive line. But that was what Chiefs fans had to really hold on to for how long? It was the 03 team, or at least that era of, okay, fine, we might not win playoff games, but Priest, Holmes, look at all these touchdowns. And then Sean Alexander had to go and break it 2 years later. It's just, enjoy this.
Can I read a comment real quick that fits along this excellent that I just think is great?
Yes.
From KChiefs12. It says, I'm old. I started with Lenny Dawson and I'll probably die with Patrick Mahomes. I've seen them all. Now, KChiefs12, I hope that Patrick Mahomes plays for 25 more years and that this is in no way an indictment of what you've got left with us on this floating marble in the sky. But to start with Len Dawson and to make it to watch Patrick Mahomes do what he's doing with his football team is a beautiful slice of football history.
Yeah. Final thing. I'm sorry. I said final thing 4 times. From Ronson Trait. In my opinion, they aren't getting enough credit for having this many injuries and still winning. I heard how many people say, yeah, well, if Vlad McConkey played. Okay, yeah, well, if Rashee Rice, if Hollywood Brown. Justin Reed, their safety was on kickoff duty, my guys. The Eagles don't trust Jake Elliott to kick a field goal. Justin Tucker is absolutely washed. And the Chiefs are like, yeah, third-string kicker Matthew Wright. Go ahead and kick a game winner for us. Enjoy this. This is awesome. For everyone in the chat, we appreciate you guys. This was a lot of fun. Really enjoyed this. I apologize about my setup. Might have to go through this for another week or two as I'm doing some renovations on the house I just bought with my wife. So yay, that's fun. But we're living out of my parents' basement. Not as fun. You can follow Brisco on the X at JB Brisco. Myself at Homestretch KC. A little switch up this week. We'll have Price on tomorrow. I'll be on Thursday with Patrick. Until next time, we are out.